Montana is known for many things: Glacier National Park, incredible skiing, cattle, and having more registered vehicles per capita than any other state. And it's not because ranchers like to have a work truck and a weekend truck and a fancy guest truck. In fact, over 10,000 of those registered vehicles are made by Aston Martin, Bentley, Bugatti, Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, Pagani, and Rolls-Royce. And chances are, the vast majority of those vehicles have never actually driven in Big Sky country. That's because of a little thing called the Montana license plate loophole, a special little law in the state that has been used by people around the country to dodge sales taxes, registration fees, and emissions testing on expensive cars for decades. You've probably seen a Montana plate on some million-dollar classic at a car show or on a guy's twin-turbo Lamborghini on Instagram. Now, other states are getting sick of losing that money and launching high-profile crackdowns, charging people with tax fraud and money laundering to stop the circus. It sounds pretty black and white, but it's turning into a free-for-all, pitting rich guys, influencers, law enforcement, and regular old enthusiasts against each other. So who's losing out when supercar owners win? How mad should we be about people using a loophole that Montana intentionally left open? And most of all, are there actually good reasons to drive through it? Okay, let's say you're looking at buying a brand new Lamborghini Revuelto. You're rich. But with an MSRP of over $600,000, it's already no small chunk of change. And then you get into sales tax. If you're in a state like Louisiana, Tennessee, or Washington, the average resident is paying over 9.5% sales tax. In other words, another $57,000. And depending on what county you're in, your taxes could be even higher. For example, a state like Alabama only has a 4% state tax, but areas like Birmingham and Montgomery are often paying over 11% total sales tax. On the flip side, if you're in Alaska, Delaware, New Hampshire, Oregon, or Montana, you would pay absolutely zero in sales tax. But despite that, Montana remains the most popular option for buying and registering a car through a state you don't live in for good reason. Montana also has no emissions inspections and permanent registration for vehicles 11 years or older. With all these incentives, there's only one hurdle left: the fact that you don't actually live in Montana. But where there's a will, there's a way. And that way is through the magic of limited liability companies. Montana law allows non-residents to create LLCs based in the state, and by doing so, you can purchase a vehicle as that company and get the exact same tax and registration benefits as a resident without ever crossing border lines. Congratulations, you're not only a Lambo owner, you're now a Montana business owner too. The path to setting up an LLC in Montana just to buy and register vehicles there is so well trodden that there are literally companies that exist to guide you through it. And your LLC doesn't even need to cosplay as a legit company.
Open for business.
Nor do you actually have to set foot in the state at any point. Thousands of people have formed their companies solely as a means to save on these big vehicle purchases. The LLC literally doesn't need to do anything else in reality or on paper. It only costs about $1,000 to get it set up through one of these helper companies, or a lot less than that if you can figure out the bureaucratic steps yourself. Once you're through it, you've got yourself a Montana-plated expensive car and avoided paying tens of thousands of dollars in sales tax and ongoing fees. For classic car collectors in places like California, you're also suddenly free of biennial smog testing requirements that sideline so many old cars. You're still throwing Montana some coin for its registration fees, and what you've done isn't legal in your home state or likely kosher with your insurance company, but at that point, who cares? It's like, call a cop. That's the funniest thing about all of this to me, actually. The Montana license plate is quite literally a label on a car saying, "Hi, I didn't pay sales tax on this." It's just not technically probable cause for police to pull you over.
He's already pulled over! He can't pull over any farther!
There are some caveats, like how other states require a cooling off period where the car sits in Montana for months before it can be taken home, but we're not here to give you a comprehensive guide. You can look up the exact steps yourself. And like I said, there are lots of firms that will just handle all of this for you. This is all so blatant and obvious, it's hard to imagine Montana made this law for any other purpose. But it exists for a number of reasons. There are a lot of people with second homes in Montana, and being able to register cars there is convenient and encourages more people to do that. It's also helpful for retirees and RVs who are permanently on the road and just need a simple, easy, and cheap way to plate their rigs. And yes, while avoiding a potential six-figure sales tax bill on a supercar is a big draw, There are some non-wealthy enthusiasts who have taken advantage of it to dodge emission standards. Montana's perpetual registration for older cars can be helpful if your turbo EK Civic just can't pass smog. But whether you feel like you're using the loophole for the right reason, or you just don't give a
nobody cares.
It's all still illegal if you're keeping and driving your car in your actual home state. Then again, what's the harm?
Don't tempt me further.
You can look at the calculation and think, okay, California's emissions laws are unfairly strict on older cars or imported cars, and while what I'm about to do is technically illegal, I'm not actually adding to the state's emissions in any meaningful way by doing this, so I might as well register it in Montana. And so what if California misses out on that sales tax or tag fee? If you live there, they're taxing you plenty anyway. Personally, I think that if you want to live in a state with higher taxes, you should pay those taxes and contribute to the society you live in. And if you don't want to pay them, you should move to a state with lower taxes. That's kind of the whole point of the United States. But the idea that this doesn't really matter at all is one of the most common you'll hear defending the whole practice. And it doesn't help that a state seeking more money from people is one of the least sympathetic characters you can imagine. Even more than rich guys.
Jeffrey, we're not that cool. Come on.
Moral arguments aside, the big allure until recently has been that, honestly, who's gonna catch you anyway? You're just one fish in an ocean of Montana plates around the country, and it really seems safe. But now, thanks in large part to social media and word of mouth amplifying the practice, other states are starting to get pissed. All right, since registering your cars in Montana is a bad plan to save money, I've got a better one. Get the Upside app. It's a free app that you can use to get cash back on 3 things we all spend way too much money on right now: groceries, dining, and gas. I mean, I paid $6.50 a gallon the other day. Or I would have if Upside didn't come through with a 60 cents per gallon cashback offer. $5.90 still sucks, but what can you do? Anyway, I use it, you should too, and it could not be easier. You download the app, claim any available offer nearby, go buy the thing with your card, and that's it. The rewards pile up fast, and you can cash out to your bank account when you want because, again, this is real money, not fake points. Plus, you can stack Upside's offers on top of your credit card points or loyalty programs. That's cash back on your cash back. Come on, it sounds pretty good, right? Upside has given back $1 billion to its users. So to find out how much you could earn, download the free Upside app and use the promo code THEDRIVE to get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas using promo code THEDRIVE. In March of last year, Utah Governor Spencer Cox signed a law to allow a data sharing program to help locate and crack down on the thousands of tax evaders in the Beehive State. Using plate readers to clock illegal registration, drivers who got busted had 60 days to essentially pay double the tax, being required to pay all taxes back on top of a 100% penalty. Georgia has been doing the same. Their Department of Revenue has been on the hunt for out-of-state plates, including Montana, since 2018. And as we mentioned earlier, Tennessee has a high sales tax to offset its low income tax, so they have been particularly militant about cracking down. Cody Detweiler, who you probably know as Whistlin' Diesel here on YouTube,
Whistlin' Diesel,
was arrested twice for tax evasion. Once for his Ferrari F8 Tributo, which was clearly rocking Montana plates before getting deep fried in a field. Just a few months after that, he was arrested again for a second vehicle also registered in Montana. Cody's been incredibly open about the arrests, making videos each time he's been cuffed. And right now, both of those have combined to over 10 million views, pushing the loophole further into the public eye. But if any state was going to crack down on something like this, you know it would be the big one on the left. And I mean that politically and cartographically. California. Last month, California Attorney General Rob Bonta rolled out a 56-count indictment for money laundering, tax fraud, and perjury, charging 14 people for conspiring to get about $20 million worth of luxury cars into California through the Montana loophole, and bilking the state out of $1.8 million in tax revenue. It's by far the biggest action of its kind, and it caught both dealers helping owners through the process and the individual owners themselves. Now, here's where I can sort of understand why some people think this kind of enforcement is unfair. By all means, go after the scummy dealers who encourage people to break the law. But you can argue, as I'm sure some of these defense lawyers will, that there are just so many signs out there that this is some weird gray area. From the businesses in Montana offering their services to non-residents, to your local luxury car salesman saying, hey, if you want to save some money, check out this one weird trick. Can you really blame them for going along with it? Well, maybe you can.
Yes, goddammit! Yes!
California thinks so, at least. And California's not done. According to the state's Department of Tax and Fee Administration, that is really a thing, over 400 investigations have been opened into high-end vehicle purchasers, with nearly 500 dealers being involved in 2,500 Montana-plated cars sold in the state since 2023. But it's more than investigations for California. At the end of March, State Senator Jerry McNark, introduced SB 1406, which could help close the loophole for good. At the core, the bill is fighting fraud by more clearly redefining California residency. In place of the state's current law, which uses majority ownership thresholds, 1406 would draw a line in the sand and say that a shell company will count as a California resident if any owner is living in California. That doesn't mean you wouldn't still be able to buy a car under a Montana LLC, but it does mean that LLC needs to act and function as, a company. Under the bill, any company can be flagged as a shell if there isn't a physical location outside of California, if there's no true business activity, and no, your Ferrari doesn't count, if there are no employees on the payroll, you don't count either, and if tax returns aren't filed. If all four of these aren't checked off, your company's on California's radar, and the state can go directly after the company's owners, managers, or partners for unpaid taxes. In short, if your Montana business isn't actually doing something other than just sitting there to manage your garage, you could be in trouble. Moreover, 1406 wouldn't just create new rules, but bolster rules already set to try and fight tax fraud. The state already has a rule stating that any vehicle brought into the state is considered taxable after 1 year. 1406 would strengthen this by making it easier to connect the vehicle to a California residence. Obviously, California has the potential to overregulate here. You're shocked, I can tell.
On the other hand, it's not surprising in the least.
Making it harder to operate an out-of-state vehicle in California could affect any business with a national fleet. And in that case, the people that are most likely to come up against this regulation are the ones that are trying to do things by the book, not the ones that were already dodging taxes in the first place. Also, if anyone's wondering, no, of course Montana isn't going to do anything about this.
Well, I'm mostly concerned about Montana.
They're happy sitting back, collecting those registration fees, collecting their own taxes on the LLC helper companies in the state, and just watching everyone else fight about it. They're not doing anything wrong. And if people are taking advantage of their perfectly innocent law to dodge taxes, well, that's their prerogative and potential criminal record to consider. Utah's more collaborative data sharing approach is probably the only way other states will get them to play along. But really, is all this angst and pain and struggle worth it just to recoup a few $1 million in revenue for states? If you think we're going to come to an agreement on that, you must not live in America.
Name one political concession.
But just like it's Montana's right to serve up this tempting loophole on a platter and dare you to resist, it's every other state's right to say no. That's actually illegal, and we will come after you for it.
Right to jail, right away.
Yes, you can make a populist case that aside from helping rich people, the loophole should exist because it can help enthusiasts like you and me hold onto an old car long after a state's unnecessarily restrictive emissions or safety standards deem it unfit for the road. But I'll say it again, this is no more or less illegal than just swapping plates between your cars, making a fake registration sticker, driving around on expired tags, or any number of other ways that a lot more people skirt their home state's laws. Some of the internet and car community's most prominent exotic owners, like Doug DeMuro, VinWiki's Ed Bolian, and Super Speeders Rob, have explained and defended the loophole, but I don't think getting rid of it would hurt the enthusiast community. The internet entrepreneur community? Maybe. We've seen not just cars, but yachts and private jets registered in Montana too. And while we're all looking for cheaper ways to enjoy our hobbies, especially now, I don't think this loophole's doing us any favors. But no matter what California or any other state does, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It will remain open, the risks will rise, people will still do it, and now you know the next time you see a Montana plate on a Ferrari weaving through traffic in Florida, chances are high it didn't drive all the way there. It's just tax fraud. I'm sure you have some thoughts on all of this, so get in the comments and tell me why I'm wrong. Or if you've got any bright ideas for fixing this whole mess. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.